I don't know. I can't believe. Any problems? Anything out of the ordinary that might have. The voices were distant, too far away to make out clearly. But why was I hearing them? My abuelo had told me as a child that the dead couldn't talk to the living except through God. Could the dead talk to each other? It's just it. I'm sure she's been a little off lately, but... That voice sounded vaguely familiar, but it didn't make any sense. She wasn't dead like me. Actually, if I was dead, why was I thinking? And why was I starting to feel the definitions of a body encasing me? That was something else Abuelo had said, that the dead left their bodies behind. While I never believed in his religious bullshit, I'd seen more than enough corpses over the years to know that particular bit was true. Don't know, but I don't think you should be blaming yourself. The other voice belonged to a man, one I didn't recognize. He spoke in a deep, authoritative tone. Was that God? Had Abuelo been right all along? Something wasn't right. I was growing heavier, and an unpleasant sensation began to radiate from the pit of my stomach. I wasn't supposed to be feeling like this. Unless... But you got no fucking idea how grateful I am for all of this. Really. Don't mention it, V. It's not a big deal. Oh, fuck. No. Please, no. Fuck that, River. I can't imagine what would have happened if... Jesus. Of all the nightmares I'd suffered since the rape, this was the worst by far. But I was lingering too close to the edge of consciousness to know that this couldn't be a dream. No, this was real. Which meant that everything was about to spill out into the open. Every lie I had told, all the things I'd done. God, no. Even though I felt like I could pry my eyes open if I tried, I chose not to. Maybe if I concentrated hard enough, I could will myself to die. It was a stupid thought, the sort of thing I would have hoped for as an early teen after the latest crisis life had thrown my way had erupted. There was no running away from this, so I chose to hide, even if I could only stay hidden for a few more seconds. I couldn't bring myself to face her. Not yet. River. I remembered the name. The former badge V had wanted me to call when I'd set up the studio. The same one I had told V I would call and had later ghosted. And look how that had turned out. But what the fuck was he doing here? Don't think that way, V. I don't know her at all, but she seems tough. Would have to be to put up with you all the time. Oh, fuck off, V chuckled between sniffles. Fuck, was she crying? There was a knock at what I assumed was a door. It dawned on me I didn't have a clue where I was. Was I still laying on the floor at Lizzie's? Or had someone dragged me back home? I didn't hear the rhythmic bass of music thumping against the walls or the bustling of traffic outside. A harsh scent hung in my nostrils, one which was vaguely familiar and reminded me of the clinic I'd visited last month, though something was off about it. There was a pungent undertone that made me want to scrunch my nose, but I held completely still, biting what little time I had left. The door opened and footsteps approached. Everything remained silent until the door closed. River, you can't keep holding this over my head forever. It's been more than a year, and you'll be square after this, so quit your bitching, Roger. If you couldn't do the time, you shouldn't have done the crime. I got plenty of chums back at the station who'd love to put a junkie dealer like yourself out of business. Would you keep your fucking voice down? I'm not a junkie dealer, for fuck's sake. I heard a scoff. Did you ever stop to think about what you were doing? Just because you weren't slinging on the streets doesn't mean you weren't supplying all the others who are. How many eddies did you rake in, ripping off the joint and selling everything you could to whoever would buy it all? They were just clinical meds. Shit that we would have tossed in the trash. Coagulants, Max Dogs, Butaqualudes, fucking ibuprofen. It wasn't like I was slinging. Would you just shut the fuck up? V suddenly shouted, causing me to flinch. Hopefully she didn't see. River sighed. I'll cut you loose after this, Roger, but I'll still be watching your every fucking move. So, what's the verdict? You better. As for her, it was close. She'd nearly flatlined by the time you dragged her in here. We had to pump her stomach and flood her system with difazone to get her stabilized. Jesus. I didn't need to open my eyes to imagine the pain on V's face. If I hadn't swung by Lizzie's to surprise her with some noodles. Can't think that way, V. Someone else would have what, River? What the hell would they have done? Where would they have taken her? We don't got the Eddies for medical care, and who the fuck would have dug into their own pockets to help? God damn it. So that's what V's surprise for me had been. She was planning to swing by Lizzie's and bring me dinner. It was something she used to do when we first met. Those evenings had been fun, and I sorely missed them. We'd spend hours talking and laughing with one another as I edited, occasionally reenacting a scene that got us both excited. Instead, I had surprised her. She'd walked in just in time to see me OD. I'd probably been convulsing or twitching on the floor and maybe had a little foam spill from my mouth just for good measure. Even when unconscious, I still managed to hurt her. Hell, I was still hurting her even now. Well, the man named Roger said, apparently, I'm here to pick up the tab. Shut up, Roger. What the hell did she take? The guy at the bar said she was drinking heavy and hitting a lot of dust. I've seen plenty of ODs in my time. No way this was just a fun evening that got away from her. My pulse raced. I wasn't even going to have the chance to try to explain myself. Instead, a complete stranger would tell V everything I had done. I wasn't any kind of medical expert, but I knew damn well there were traces of Sandman and Lace in my system. And the ice. Fuck. What was she going to say? No, her blood work was teeming with almost every kind of narcotic you can imagine. Not to mention she had an ABV of 0.15, which wasn't doing her any favors either. What? I'm sorry, V. I was trying to do this for you, to cut you loose so I wouldn't anchor you down anymore. That doesn't add up, Rivers said suspiciously. Doesn't jive with what they said she was doing. Well, if you still had your badge and your ear to the ground, I'm sure you would have heard about the rash of scrap floating around the city. Scrap? V asked. It's really nothing new. Since the beginning of time, people have been diluting or slicing their shit with other shit just to save an eddy. This particular blend, though, is a real bitch. We've probably had over 1,000 ODs in the last year, and those are just the ones who managed to make it through the door. Fuck, Rivers spat. Scrap, huh? What was it sliced with? Roger laughed. That's the wrong question. Try what wasn't it sliced with. Roaches, coke, lace, ice, jazz, prime, Sandman. Want me to keep going? I can. It's quite the list. Carajo. I had all of that shit in my system. How the fuck was I still breathing? God damn it. River wasn't shouting, but I was still startled at how angry he sounded. If she snorted all of that, shouldn't it have fucking killed her? V asked, her voice trembling. That much shit wouldn't do a whole lot in moderation, Roger finished her sentence. Here's the real bitch with this crap. It's perfectly mixed. Everything that's spliced into it is in low quantities, almost like seasoning being mixed in, with dust still acting as the main ingredient. It's cheaper to make, feels better for whoever's snorting it, and it's not all that addictive right off the bat. Whoever's mixing this stuff, and I'd pin it on the voodoo boys out of Pacifica since that's where it first bubbled up, didn't want to flood the streets with a bunch of bodies. And it's a perfect way for them to slip into the market without starting a major turf war with the Claws or Valentinos. So what does that mean for her? I held my breath, waiting for the answer to V's question. What did all of this mean for me? If there had been Lace and Sandman already mixed in with the dust, even ice. Like I said, in moderation it's not that bad. Thing is, she snorted enough that even if it was pure dust, she still would have hit the floor. I tried to keep myself from turning red, but the sheer agony in V's sobs nearly made it impossible. The sound of fabric being rubbed reached my ears, and I realized it was probably River comforting her. River comforting her. Not me. I was too busy hiding like a child. So, she'll need to detox, River said. How long can you keep her here? And what'll that look like? Look, this ain't my call. Just spit it out, Roger. A few hours, that's it, all right? Then the nurses are going to realize there's someone here who shouldn't be. You think there's any spare beds laying around here? NCMC is packed 24/7. I'm risking my job to do this. Well, at least I knew where I was now. The gravity of the situation suddenly hit me. If I was taking up a gurney in the largest hospital in all of Night City, a gurney that should have been reserved for some rich corpo or someone with a trauma team subscription, then I'd come really close. I could feel the tension rising in the air. There was the slow patter of footsteps, a jacket being poked at, and the sharp huffing of breath through someone's nostrils. What does V need to do? River growled. She'll need a few days to clean out her system, maybe a week. Keep her off of everything, not so much as a fucking aspirin. Just the basics for food and no other fluids except water. And you can expect a lot of that to come back up. It won't be fun, but it's the only way to get her clear of it all. Now, if you want to check her into the junkie clinic over on... Don't fucking call her that, V screamed. Get out, Roger. Fine, Roger huffed. You've got till 3, and then you gotta be out of here. I'm not gonna lose my job over this. More footsteps. The door opened and closed. You alright, V? Yeah. Jesus. She sounded so defeated, and it made me want to cry. Why didn't she understand why I had done it? Why did there have to be all this confusion? Can I be alone with her for a bit? V asked. Of course, River replied. I'll wait outside and make sure that piece of shit doesn't poke his head back in here. Let me know if you need anything. Thanks, River. For everything. I heard fabric rustling. They had to be hugging before the door slid open and shut once more. A long, deafening silence followed. You can open your eyes now. Shit. Bright light flooded into my eyes as soon as they opened, sending a burst of pain ricocheting across my skull. Everything was fuzzy, and there was a dryness behind them that made it hard to look around. I was finally able to focus on V. She was standing at the foot of what I assumed was the gurney I was laying upon. She looked... Fuck. I squinted my eyes shut again as tears welled in them. The moment her hand brushed my hair, something inside of me broke. I'd cried many times throughout my life, but this was different. It wasn't like I'd heard it described before, the floodgates bursting open, so to speak. It was more like a slow trickle. My throat tightened to the point where I thought I would choke, but instead, a pitiful wail croaked from it. Shh. I let myself cry, even though I had no right to, which only made me bawl harder. The more V tried to console me, the worse it became, until I was clutching onto the very thing I'd tried so desperately to avoid. She held me through it all, even when I wanted nothing more than to break free of her grip and dive out the window. Sensing I had exhausted myself, V pulled away and raised my chin, forcing my gaze to hers. Her cheeks were as wet as my own. The moment I dreaded was quickly approaching, and I wasn't ready. She wasn't ready. Tell me what happened. I wanted to. For the first time since it happened, I truly wanted to. It was too much of a burden to carry alone, and I was so damn tired. But she wasn't ready. How could she be when even I clearly wasn't? I just got carried away is all. My stomach rolled as it revolted at the abhorrent lie that spilled from my lips. But I wasn't really lying, was I? Carried away? I nodded, my eyes searching hers to determine whether or not she believed me. There was no reason for her not to. It was true. I'd simply gotten carried away. Judy, V shook her head. Let's forget about what was in that shit, which it sounds like you didn't know. And let's even forget about how different you've been acting lately. You heard what he said, and I know you did, so don't bother trying to hide it. 0.15? Enough dust to flatline someone twice your size? That's no accident. V, I had to come up with something, fast, but I didn't know what to say. The truth would be a good start. In fact, what harm was there in letting some of it out, as long as I didn't go too far? Tell me, V implored. Let me in. I'm not trying to keep you out, I lied. It was just everything. This fucking city we're still trapped in. Not knowing if you're not gonna walk through the door one night or if I'm gonna get a call saying they found you in some alleyway. The fucking accident, the studio, Roxanne, just shit, I can still see her head rolling. I stopped myself, trying to shake away the image from my head. It had been all too easy to confess everything that had spilled out of me, as though the filter had never been there to begin with. How much more was beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered? V regarded me carefully. I know you've been through a lot, Jude. The last month or two has been a bitch for both of us, and I know I haven't been there enough to support you. No, don't do this to yourself, V. This isn't what I want. Yes, it is. V, no, it's not you. The hell, it's not me. I'm never around. As hard as I've tried, I'm not around enough for you except for when I need you to take care of me. But I'll be damned if I'm gonna let you... Her voice suddenly cracked. She stood and began pacing back and forth, her hands fidgeting at her sides. She turned back to me, her face desperate for answers. I saw the bruises on your wrists before, after the accident. My wrists? I looked down reflexively, studying them. There wasn't a mark to be seen. They had healed well. What? Judy. V stopped and crossed her arms. You've been off for a while. At Laguna Bend, you were like a different person. You started saying something about your past that you didn't want to get into. V, just let me talk. If you tell me that all of this was an accident, that things simply got out of hand, I'll believe you. V sat on the gurney and leaned over me. Just like you need to believe me that if there's something else going on, you can tell me what it is. I won't break. You know that, right? So please, just tell me. What happened? I was raped. The truth was right there, closer to coming out than ever before. I wanted more than anything to believe her. She'd proven her strength and was more caring than I deserved, affectionate and loving in all the ways I couldn't be. But there would be no turning back. She would see me exactly for what I was, the monster who'd lied and manipulated throughout her life to get what she wanted. I was a lost cause, and it seemed wrong to drag her down with me. Things got out of hand, V. That's all. Are you sure? Don't bullshit me. I was a dishonest piece of shit and undeserving of V's love. I knew that, but I still had one decent bone left in my body. Everything may have been stolen away from me. My dreams, my life, my control, my past, my future. But I refused to let that happen to her. This had been the one choice I'd made that I could still cling to protect her from the truth. I was the one who had been raped, not V, and I would sooner cut my fucking wrists and bleed out like Evelyn had before I'd ever let the awfulness of that horrific act defile her. Living the lie was the only way I could continue to protect her. I'm sure, V. She was searching my eyes for any hint of deception she could find, But I knew in my heart she would come up empty. I was too skilled, too practiced for someone like V to see me for what I really was. Okay, she said finally. You believe me? Is there some reason I shouldn't? V replied sharply. No, I'm just sorry, V. I'm so sorry I scared you like this. You're right. These last couple of months have been terrible. The wrists, my hands got wrapped in the steering wheel when I got hit. That's all. And yeah, I thought Laguna Bend would be a reprieve, but I couldn't get my mind off of things. And last night, everything hit me all at once. I shouldn't have tried to drown myself, my problems, away like that. I should have known better, even if I was sold some bad shit. You're damn right you should have known better. What the hell were you thinking? Judy, if I had lost you... V turned away so I couldn't see her face, though it did nothing to hide the way her shoulders had begun to shake. I reached out, noticing for the first time the IV that was stuck in my wrist pumping saline into me, and put my hand on her shoulder. She shook harder, just as I'd known all along. So strong, yet so fragile underneath. This was the right thing to do. You didn't lose me. And even if you had, you'd survive. V's head spun back to me, her eyes wide with horror. How can you say that? I hadn't meant for that last bit to come out. But it was true. She would survive. I was counting on it. You can say that because you're so fucking strong, V. I don't know how you do it. She took my hand into her own. It was warm, or maybe it was simply that mine was cold. As our fingers entwined, I noticed my skin was far paler than normal. Considering I had been changed into a hospital gown at some point, I must have looked like I was lying on my deathbed. I'm only strong because of you, and I'm going to show you just how strong you are, starting later today. I nodded, already feeling a sense of dread taking hold of me. A week to detox? Susie was already inches away from firing me, and we still had a long way to go to claw back our savings. I'd seen plenty of street junkies huddled on the streets, shaking uncontrollably as they puked their guts out. If that was going to be me, why couldn't I have just taken the fucking dust down to my den? Then I could have hit it all, and no one would have been the wiser. It would have made things so much easier. Fuck, I muttered. Yeah, but you're not gonna have to do this by yourself. I'll go clean with you. Gonna dump all the liquor and toss any shit we've got. Gone and done. For good. It's still gonna be hard. More so on you. But I'll take care of you. You don't know, V. You don't know how fucking scared I am. If everything is taken away, what am I going to use to keep myself sane? How am I going to stop myself from screaming in the middle of the night? I don't know if I can do this. You can, Judy, V said, her voice brimming with confidence. I believe in you. Hell, you call me strong? Look what you did for me. Shit, I figure it's the least I can do after how much you've been towing my fat ass around lately. I truly didn't deserve her. She had such a gift, an incredible way of making me laugh when I was at my worst. It would be better suited if it were directed towards someone who could return it. You're not fat, V, I chuckled, wiping my eyes. And you're not gonna be either for a while. But I'll hold back your hair and cram as much toast in you as I can while you're not barfing it all back up. My eyes connected with hers. The truth, not just what had happened to me, but who I really was, remained something I couldn't tell her. But she deserved to hear something from me that wasn't bullshit. Something honest that she could take with her. I don't deserve you. Don't say that. V laid a gentle finger on my lips. You deserve love, and I fucking love you so much. Just please don't scare me like this again. Ever. I'm sorry. V shifted and wrapped her arms around me as best she could, my position on the gurney making the embrace an awkward one, but I didn't care. I savored the moment for as long as I could, knowing the rug would soon be pulled out from under me once again, just like always.